Hi guys, how are you? Welcome back to Real Macroeconomics and Investing. Patreon.com/Real Macro. All right, come down, like, subscribe, follow along. Important stuff here. Okay, we talk about monetary system, macroeconomics, trading, investing, stocks, bonds, commodities, real estate, blah blah blah. There's a lot to that's free that you guys can come down and learn from. All right, so we're going to talk about a very complex issue because it's complex because it's social media nonsense that is really kind of fooling people, and verbiage is very important. And if you don't understand the monetary system, people can fool you into believing things that are not true. So, what am I talking about? Is there such a thing as a sovereign currency issuer? Not. Hmm. All right. A lot to unpack here. Right. Good. Let me move my beautiful face. First of all, this is the Federal Reserve website. We're going to talk about this in a moment here, but let's talk about this. All right. Number one, what is the difference between a currency and money? Not the same thing, even though they are the same thing. They're not the same thing. Currency is just paper, it's coin. All right. That's currency. That is not money. Not the same thing. Yes, it's money in the sense that, we interact with it every day, but it's currency. All right. So if you want to fund government, you need money. Okay. If you want to go out and make a transaction with a credit card, then that's money. Okay. But if you want to transact in cash or coins, then you're using a currency. Okay. Now, uh, currency is not what the government uses to create money and spend. Now, why is that important? Well, you see, cognitive linguistic science is being used on social media to promote nonsense. What do I mean? Well, a sovereign currency issuer implies that the government can print money and spend it. Okay? That's how people are trying to trick other people into thinking that the government can just willy nilly print money and go out and spend it. That's not the way it works. Okay? So you got to be really cautious and really understand the words that are being used to fool you into thinking that the government just prints money and spends it. So, yes, the government can, and its agents, this is very important. So, the way they phrase it is um, the sovereign currency issuer and its agents. Okay? What are the agents? Well, the agents are the Federal Reserve and banks. Okay? So, um, the currency issuer, okay, is not the federal government. The federal government can mint coins, which is a currency, but it cannot issue paper dollars. That is done from the Federal Reserve. Okay. Now, the Treasury is the one that engraves it, designs it, makes sure that it's not counterfeited very easily. Okay. But that's engraving. That has nothing to do with issuing the paper currency. Okay. Good. But again, this is currency, not money, right? Good. Now, when they say a sovereign currency issuer, okay, yes, the Federal Reserve, the agent, and um, the um, the Treasury can issue currency, okay, but you got to have money in order for you to obtain that currency. It means you need to have credit in a bank. You got to have money first. Okay. So if you go back to previous videos, I talk about how money is created. It's not IOUs. It's not just printed up and passed out willy-nilly to everybody, right? You got to fund the money before it can exist. Okay. What does funding the money means? It means you either have to go out to work or you have the ability to take a loan that creates a deposit uh, that you can then spend. It becomes income, profit, savings to somebody. Okay. Now, that's funding, right? You got to be credit worthy. So if you go to the bank and you have deposits, you have money in the bank account, now you can demand currency by putting an ATM card or asking a teller, you sign, whatever, you get it. If you want a loan, then you have to fund the loan first, and the way you do that is you meet all the criteria that the bank requires of you. You have to have a job, you have to have the proper income, an interest rate that is going to reflect what your risk is. You got to have collateral in some cases. You got to follow all those rules. Okay, you just don't willy-nilly uh, go to a bank and they give you money and you go out and spend. It's the same thing with the government. Okay, and we're going to talk about the law here a little bit. To make it easy for you, just remember these three things. No government, central bank, or private bank can self-fund and spend money. They can't just willy-nilly fund themselves money and go out and spend it. They can't just print it up out of thin air and go out and spend it. Talking about money now. Okay? Can't do it. It's illegal. All right? Good. So let's see here what the Federal Reserve says. The Federal Reserve purchases Treasury securities held by the public through the competitive bidding process. Now, this is important. Why? Because primary dealers, okay, banks, big banks, okay, facilitate transactions between the private sector and government, right? Good. So the primary dealers are obligated to bid on bonds. They're not obligated to buy. This is another one of these things on social media that people run around saying the primary dealers must buy bonds. They don't. They're obligated to bid at whatever interest rate they deem is appropriate. Okay, they bid. They don't have to buy. So the Federal Reserve purchases Treasury securities held by the public through a competitive bidding process. Okay, the Federal Reserve does not purchase new Treasury securities directly from the U.S. Let's read that again. The Federal Reserve does not purchase new Treasury securities directly from the U.S. Treasury. And the Federal Reserve purchases of Treasury security from a public or not are not a means of financing the federal deficit. Okay, so what does that mean? The Federal Reserve can buy bonds in the open market. Okay, in the open market, they can buy bonds. We'll talk about this a little bit in a little bit. Okay, but the Federal Reserve cannot fund government spending. It's illegal. Okay, it is not. Okay, Federal Reserve does not purchase new treasury. Federal Reserve purchases of Treasury securities from the public are not a means of financing the federal deficit. Okay? Can't do it. It's illegal. Very, very, very important to understand this. Let's move on. If you go and you take a look at a Federal Reserve note, $100, it says Federal Reserve note right on it. It doesn't say government. Okay? It doesn't say Treasury. Okay? It's issued by the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve is in charge to make sure that there's sufficient amount of currency in circulation to meet the demands of the private sector. But that has nothing to do with creating money. Okay? They can increase, decrease the amount of currency in circulation to meet demand, but that has nothing to do with creating new money or financing government or anything like that. All right? Let's continue on. Let's go now and let's talk about the Constitution. And in the Constitution, it says very clearly that the government is authorized to tax, and borrow. Okay? It can tax and borrow. So that means the government must tax or borrow if need be before spending. It cannot issue money willy-nilly. Okay? Can't do it. It's illegal. Can't self-fund. Remember, government, central bank, banks, anywhere on the planet, not just the U.S., uh, do not self-fund and spend money. Okay? Good. Um, so we pretty much covered everything. And there's a question in the Federal Reserve, why doesn't the Federal Reserve just buy treasuries directly from the U.S. Treasury? Because it's illegal. Counterfeiting. Okay? Government cannot fund itself. And I'm showing you the laws here, right? These are the laws. These are the regulations as per the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. Okay? Some people will tell you, well, as soon as Congress votes on what to spend, then it's funded. No, you can't fund it. The only way government can fund itself is by collecting taxes or borrowing from the private sector. Okay? That's the only way. It's in the Constitution. It's in the Federal Reserve site. Go look it up for yourself, okay? And it asks, you can ask the question, why doesn't the Federal Reserve just, buy treasuries from Treasury? And it's not authorized. Can't do it. Only in the open market. Now, let's talk about this. When the central bank buys bonds, okay, it's buying $100 bond and exchanging it for $100 of reserves. Okay? It's an asset swap. 100 for 100. Clear? Good. Now, my friend Edward Delzio used to say, all money is money. What does that mean? And he's right. Don't get confused between currency, money, bonds, reserves, vertical money, horizontal money, whatever money, right? Everybody kind of, uses these terms to sound very smart and, accurate if you know what you're talking about. But to the layman, usually they think it's something magical about reserves. And look, it's very simple. If you replace these words with the word money, everything will become clear to you. So let's try this again, okay? The Federal Reserve can go out in the open market. They don't know who the hell they're buying from, okay? In the open market, and they are going to buy $100 of money for $100 of money and swap it. Now is it clear to you? $100 of money for $100 of money. Okay? It's an asset swap. It does nothing. There's no funding of the deficit. There's no new money created. Okay? Very, very important. Now, let's get back to the sovereign currency issuer. Okay? Sovereign currency issuer does not mean that the government can just print up money and spend it. Self-fund. Can't do it. But people think they can because of the way the words are put together. Where did the dollar come from? What do you mean where? Private banks. No, no, no. It's from the government. It can only come from the government. No. Only the government can designate what's legal tender. That doesn't mean the government can self-fund and spend. You see, it's a very big difference. So don't let the social media nonsense fool you uh, um, into believing that the government can just fund us all. We can all just sit home and then they can send checks out and, oh, look, I got $1 billion. I'm a billionaire now. And we don't have to go to work and everything is great. Not the way money works. Okay? It would be worthless if that happened. All right, so let's make pretend that an economy has $1 trillion. I should not do it here. I should probably use something else. Hold on one second. All right, let's do it here. Let's say an entire economy, all the money that exists in this economy is $1 trillion. And let's say that this particular economy uses about $100 billion, okay, throughout the year, bumps and troughs and whatever. Okay, about 100 billion it needs in currency. Okay, this is currency. This is money. This is all the money that exists. Okay, between the government, the private sector, everybody. All right, so there's $1 trillion and there's 100 billion dollars in circulation. Let's say that the private sector now demands $1 trillion. They want it all in freaking cash, man. Just pump it out. It is up to the Mint and the Federal Reserve to pump out sufficient amount of currency, okay, of $1 trillion to meet demand for the private sector. $1 trillion. Okay. Can they print $101 trillion? No. Why? It doesn't exist. See what I'm saying? So you cannot print currency beyond what is available. So when the government creates, or the banks, okay, banks create most of the money. When the government or private banks create money, okay, they cannot um, issue currency beyond the amount of the money that was created. Okay, just you can't do it. So if you need to increase the money supply, right, what you're going to do in this case is the private banks are going to make more loans to creditworthy borrowers that are going to create deposits. And then when those deposits are spent, it's going to create income, profit, savings to somebody, right? And that's going to increase the money supply. Same thing when government borrows, right? In order for the government to borrow, it has to be creditworthy. How is it creditworthy? Via taxation. Taxes of people's blood, sweat, and tears make the government creditworthy. That means the government then can borrow money. Okay? So as long as it's creditworthy, it can go out into the private sector and it can borrow money to create more money. Okay? So don't confuse currency with money. Not the same thing. Now remember, these people, the little shysters on social media, they try to fool people that there's a free lunch, that somehow the government funds us all with money. All right, so we're lucky because we had a currency that came to be, the euro, recently. Okay, now how was the euro created? Okay, very simple. Very simple. It had a bunch of nations with different currencies. They set an exchange rate for each currency. Okay, so if you had 430 drachmas, okay, you give that and you get €1. Okay, it's converted, the conversion rate. If it was a Deutschmark, it was 1 to 1, and if it was something else, whatever. Okay, so the government can designate what is legal tender. Then there's an exchange rate that is set. Okay, and then all that currency that already existed in every nation, okay, has a conversion, whatever that conversion is, right? That money is exchanged electronically, physically, doesn't matter if it's currency, if it's just money, whatever. It is converted to whatever the new amount of euros equivalent it is. Okay? Once that's done, then everything goes back to normal. Okay? The government did not issue money and everybody went to go work for the government to provision itself and then acquire euros and everybody else sitting there waiting, hey, I fly planes. Did you work for the government making a bridge? Yeah. Can I do something for you so I can have some euros, please? right? This is the way they push it on social media and people eat it up. But this is insane. That's not the way it works. Okay. Uh, the euro is a great example. You know how new money was created. It wasn't by government issuing money and running out and passing it out like candy, funding us. And hey, look, we're all rich. Um, so don't be fooled by these people who tell you they have a description of how the monetary system actually works. That the way they say it is not the way it works. So to finish it all up, can a government and its agent issue currency? The answer is yes, provided there's sufficient amount of money available. Okay, that's just currency that goes up and down based on demand. All right. That does not mean that the government can just willy-nilly print money and spend it. That is not the way it works. So remember, no government, central bank, or private bank can willy-nilly issue um, themselves money and go out and spend it. Not even currency. Okay? They can't do it. It's illegal. And I showed you all the laws. All right. So that's it for this video. I'll probably get some questions about this one. There's a lot to unpack, but believe me, there's a reason why these shysters use the lingo that they do, and it's very specific. And then they derive from that little phrase, they derive all this crazy nonsense that has nothing to do with reality. They're scam artists. It's the way it is in the information age. They fill you up with bullshit. People, lots of people believe it. They don't know any better, so they go out and think that the government can give us all free money. We don't can have free this, free that. The golden goose that lays a golden egg or whatever is government, and government can make us all rich, and government can pay for everything, and government and government and government. That is Soviet economics, my friends. Okay, the Soviets tried it and they failed miserably. Right, the whole thing just collapsed. Uh, so that's it for this video. Thank you very much. Don't forget to come down to patreon.com/realmacro. Click like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys soon.